Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about composting because I live way out in the middle of nowhere, and that's what I do all day long. So composting is a process in which organic matter is decomposed by the microorganisms in the natural environment. The composting process improves the quality of soil and allows farmers to choose between natural waste as opposed to chemical fertilizers that produce harmful greenhouse gases. Composting enables the soil to restore its nutrients through the increased production of microorganisms that break down waste products into nutrients needed by plants that grow on the ground. Microorganisms also enable soil to retain moisture. Additionally, composting tops up the biodiversity in the soil by allowing the survival of fungi, bacteria, worms, and insects that enable plants to grow healthy. Composting is mainly done in a compost pit, and from the composting process, the composition of the soil is improved, thus reducing cases of soil erosion. The manure that is prepared for the process aids plants to develop strong roots and hold soil firmly. The composting process can be done in a different number of methods, including turned windrows, hot and cold composting, tumbler composting, and vermicomposting. Most factory farmers and industrial farmers use the static piles and windrow type because they are fast, effective, and cheap. While people who household or backyard compost prefer to use hot and cold composting, tumbler composting, and vermicomposting because it can be done on a much smaller scale. Hot composting is used for a high production of manure. The method requires intensive labor and speeds up the composting process. The pile must be turned every 2 days or when the temperature drops below 150 degrees. Composting is done fast due to high temperatures that destroy the weed seeds and the disease-causing organisms that lead to infection. Cold composting, on the other hand, does not produce heat and calls for less effort as compared to hot composting because it does not need to be turned. Organic materials such as kitchen waste and plant waste are piled together. The kitchen waste scraps are placed in the middle of the pile in order to keep animals and insects off of it. The difference at this point is that cold composting takes over a year longer than hot composting. Tumbler composting is the use of a plastic barrel to mix organic and kitchen waste to form manure. The process of the vessel is started by a compost activator, which is then followed by the usual decomposition that is done by microbes. The method relies on the living microorganisms to require constant ventilation and turning on. Method relies on living microorganisms, so it requires constant ventilation and the turning of the components at least 2 times a week. The tumbler is used to ensure that constant heat is produced by the content that is inside the tumbler. Vermicomposting is a method of composting that is used to help worms turn food waste into usable soil. It requires the help of white and red wiggler worms to form a mixture with degrading vegetables, bedding, as well as food waste. Worm manure is what is achieved at the end of the breakdown of organic substances that is done by the worms. The windrows process entails inserting specific amounts of mixed materials in narrow piles. The amount of each material mixed has to be precise in order to avoid the anaerobic conditions from forming inside the rows to reduce combustion that can result in overheating. Typically, the windrows are constructed to a limited size to enable constant flow of oxygen. Windrows are used for high-volume food processing, local governments, and communities. The composting process requires some conditions to be maintained for better disintegration. For instance, in all methods, there should be proper moisture to enable the microorganisms to work on the waste matter to form nutrients in the soil for better survival of plants. Similarly, aeration and oxygen are required to be maintained for optimum results. Other conditions such as pH, temperature, and nutrients should be kept in a balanced state for composting to occur. In conclusion, composting is an important part of any society as it reduces landfill waste, decreases the need for chemical fertilizers in factory farming, increases the nutrients in soil, enabling plants to grow healthy.